Hello, everyone, and thank you once again for joining me today. My name is John Kayode Abusi. In continuation of my new series on Microsoft and Azure Cybersecurity, I want to go directly into the first tool or services within the ecosystem that is called Microsoft Entra. Microsoft Entra, like I laid out in the previous video, is one of the 7 services that under Microsoft security platform or security. Now, what I want to do in this video, I just want to give us an overview, and that will help us to understand some of the business problems that this particular tool or service address. Now, the first thing I want us to look at is, if you look at my screen, I have a screen. I'm now in Microsoft Entra ID admin. And if you look at what we have here is, I want us to look at the group head of all the functionality that we have within this particular tool or service. So the group head is Entra ID, ID governor, verify ID, and global secure asset. Now, Microsoft Entra is the identity control plane for the modern enterprise. It governs who get in, what they can touch, for how long, and under what condition. So these are the questions that Microsoft, Entra answer. Now, at its core, Microsoft Entra answers one question that every organization has to answer. Who is allowed to access what and under what condition? It does that across 5 dimensions. It manages your identity, it authenticates your users, it authorizes access through policy, it governs your privilege account, and it handles the full life cycle of access from the moment someone joins your organization to the moment they leave. And it does all of that just for your employees. Not just for your employees, but for your partners, your customers, and your AI agent. So the bigger picture here of Entra, Microsoft Entra, is the fact that it goes beyond your employee. It addresses the need, the identity need of your customer. It also has addressed the identity need of your agent. Now, what I want us to look at today, like I said, is these are the 5 group head that when you open your Entra admin page, you will see them. Now, the first one is Entra identity. If you look at all we have here, it's user, group, enterprise, agent, devices, app registration, delegated, admin partners, a lot of stuff you can do here. But it comes down to one thing. Entra ID is your cloud identity directory, the single authoritative record of every user, every device, every application, and every permission in your organization. Everything else in the Entra stack sits on top of this. Now, the reason why Entra ID is very important, and you can see it's number 1 on the list, is that this is like the crown jewel. This is like the alter ego. This is where it all starts from. This is where users, devices, applications are created, they are identified, they are inventorialized, and they are managed through access, through privilege, and every other thing. So when this is done, every other thing can sit on it. And if you look at this, I want to just show you one, just one of the functionalities that you can see. If you go to external identity, you can see here that, for instance, you can cross tenant, you can do external collaboration. This is like giving you opportunity to connect with other, maybe identity or other organization. Now, if you go to, let me look at something that's very, this one. So this is like you can sync, you can connect to on-prem infrastructure, and you can connect to other cloud infrastructure as well. But that being said, what I want to talk about next is authentication. Now, authentication, Entra handles authentication, and it goes beyond password. You can enforce multi-factor authentication across your entire user base, or go further and eliminate password entirely with FIDO toolkit, Windows Hello, or the Microsoft authentication app, because here is reality. The password is the most exploited thing in the environment. Now, if you look at how password management has evolved over the years, you will know that the pursuance of what we call passwordless environment is real. Is it the password sprawl? But today, if you within your Microsoft environment, you can use an authenticator application to do your authentication, and all these things comes very handy in your environment, in this Microsoft environment. So let's look at the authentication method. I talked about the FIDO, the MFA, and stuff like that. So let's look at it. If you look at this blade here, you will see that within the authentication method, you can see password, FIDO, Microsoft authentication, authenticator, SMS. They are verified. OTP. These are what I call multi-factor MFA and passwordless functionality within this environment. So the point is that these are the functionalities, these are the solutions, these are the toolings you can use within your architecture, within your engineering workflows when you need to do that. So you have to know that they exist. You have to know what they do. Then that allows you, that knowledge brings you to the place whereby when you are road mapping, when you are architecting for a new solution, or you want to refactor, you know that, okay, you have an available solution, within your Microsoft ecosystem that you can explore, that you can integrate. So that is the essence of this. So the next thing I want to talk about is conditional access. This is where Entra gets intelligent. Conditional access is a policy engine that evaluates every single signing attempt in real time. It look at who the user is, what device they are on, and where they are coming from, what are they trying to access, and what their real-time risk score is. And it makes a decision whether to let them in, block them, or challenge them for more verification. This is how you enforce zero trust at the identity level. So conditional access helps you to enforce zero trust, because that engine, that conditional engine, what it does is that it constantly, verify and score, do some risk scoring against that particular user or get the particular device, and begin to determine on the runtime wise, begin to determine whether it's something that should allow, is something that is normal or something that is abnormal. And if it's something that maybe is kind of strange, or it doesn't have the knowledge of it, or maybe based on some parameters, it's not something that I want to let in, but I want to see if it's really human. That's where you see all those maybe like you have to do MFA, ask for one validation or the other for you before you get access. So conditional access is a very important thing. So if you look at this place, if you look at under identity secure score, you see conditional access. So these are very, very conditional access. So this is the engine that kind of assess your sessions, your users, your connections on real time, and score them based on some risk factors, risk level, or risk informations, and determine the next course of action. You understand, whether to block them or whether to say, okay, let me give you some challenge that you can if you pass it, then I will allow. If you don't, then I will reject you. So that is that. Then I move to identity protection. So if you look at ID protection here, so identity protection is your early warning system. It uses Microsoft signal intelligence across billions of signings daily to detect when a valid account is behaving suspiciously. Impossible travel, leaked credentials, anonymous IP usage, token replay. It surfaces a risk score, and you feed that risk score, and you feed that risk score directly into conditional access, so that response is automatic. So what is happening here is that when you do identity protection, what it does is that it's monitoring the signals, it's comparing, it's aggregating, it's like understanding the behavior of that user or that machine. And then when something doesn't add up, then it begins to say, okay, what can I do to make sure that you are the real person? It's not as if maybe somebody has taken over your credentials, or maybe somebody has stolen your device or stuff. So this is what we call ID protection, identity protection. It protects your identity from bad actors, because at the end of the day, it's monitoring your behavior, it's monitoring the signals, it's monitoring past event, and begin to make some decisions, on runtime on your behalf, just to ensure that you are safe and secure. So the other thing I want to talk about is enterprise app SSO. Now, this is very important. This is really, really important, especially for those of us that come from enterprise background, that do a lot of work around that. The nightmare of having you to deal with identity and access management within a business application is something that really worth talking about here. So if you come here, you see enterprise apps. So you see that, you will see all apps. So for instance, if you want to add a new app, it allows you to use Entra ID as a basis for authenticating your business application. And if you look at it here, there are real connections between this particular solution and AWS, Azure, and Oracle, SAP. A lot of them. So what this does is that it allows you to connect with business application, productivity application, even some on-prem applications as well. You can connect your Entra ID with them. Then at the end of the day, when a user is provisioned, or maybe a system is provisioned on this particular platform, then that automatically give you opportunity to use the same asset in your business environment. So Entra gives you single sign-on across your entire application portfolio, Microsoft and non-Microsoft. Once your user authenticate to Entra, they can access Salesforce, Workday, ServiceNow, GitHub, and thousands of other apps without ever entering another password, one identity, one login, and one audit trail. So that is it there. So it's very important that we know that this particular functionality do exist. Then the other one I want to talk about under this particular here again is privilege identity management. That is what we call a PIM. So let's look at privilege identity management here. Okay, you see it's under ID governance. So remember at the beginning of this video, I talked about the 5 categories of services, or let me say group head services of Entra Admin Center. One is Entra ID, number 2 is ID governance, number 3 is verify ID, and number 4 is global secure service, and the other one kind of mixed together. So if you look at under privilege identity management here, this is what does that do? It's PIM, call it PIM, PIM solve one of the most dangerous configuration I see in enterprise environment. Permanently assigned admin role. With PIM, nobody holds global account or any privilege role permanently. You are eligible for the role when you need it. You request it, you justify it, someone approve it, and it activates for a defined window. When the time expires, it's gone. That is just in time asset, and it dramatically shrink your attack surface. That is that. So that's what PIM does for you. You don't permanently hold a global or a privilege account, credentials and role, but it's just a time. You just need it. You ask for it, you get it, you use it, and it's terminated. So you don't constantly or maybe permanently have it, and this alone help you to reduce your attack surface, because that shows that nobody currently hold that, and it will be very difficult for bad actors to take advantage of this. So if you look at it here, you will see my rows. You can see that I don't have much here, and if you go back a bit, I think there's something I want to show here. Is my request. You understand? So I didn't make any request here, but I'm just saying you can make a new request, new support request, all this kind of thing. But that's the essence of this video, is not to go do deep dive for now. That will come later, but it's just to give us an understanding of what is going on within these tooling. So the next thing I want to talk about is ID governance. I is a group head, but under that I have showed you privilege identity management. But the other thing is entitlement management. So under the ID governance, PIM, that is privilege identity management, then entitlement management, then reviews, lifecycle workflows, all those things, they fall under ID governance group head. So ID governance handles the full lifecycle of assets. Entitlement management lets users request access package, bundle of permission for a role or a project, and those packages expires automatically when the project ends. Access review put managers on a schedule to certify whether their team still need what they have. And lifecycle workflow automate the onboarding and offboarding process end to end. No manual editing, no forgotten accounts, sitting open after someone leaves. So this is what ID governance does. It's a lifecycle management framework or engine within Microsoft Entra. It allows you to, users to make, a request, and that request have a human, like a manager in the loop, approve it, use it. Then at the end of the day, it constantly tell the owner or the manager that approved it that, okay, do your users still need this? Maybe a couple of days later, and that gives the visibility to the manager to say, okay, oh, this person is no more with us, or maybe this project is ended, and that can be what that if it doesn't, even the workflow is that it can deprovision itself, like at a point. So that is what ID governance, that is what they do. So that's what it does. So if you look at entitlement management here, you see how it works. There are a lot of things you can review your common use cases, review common protection, a lot of review you can do here. And if you you can look at your access package, if you have any, you can look at your catalog, you can look at your report. So these functionalities within this particular group head and these tools, they are very handy when it comes to lifecycle access management. Then if you look at access review is one of the features within the ID governance. So here you can review your asset. You can, like I said, you can look at the control configurations. You can do all sorts of things as regards what I call full life cycle of access. That is what it does. So with that, so we've talked about Entra ID, group head, show us some of the services and the toolings there. Then I moved to ID governance, group head, and I've showed us entitlement management, access review, privilege management, and this is the lifecycle workflow I was talking about. So it's very important that I just show you this, like the lifecycle workflow that I included. It's also there. This is where you can do like how from onboarding to offboarding. So with that, you have a you have that taken care of. So the other thing I want to talk about is Entra, Microsoft Entra Connect. So hybrid sync, Microsoft Entra Connect. Now, what does this do? Most large organizations are not fully cloud. They have Active Directory that has been running on premises for years, and they are not shutting it off tomorrow. Entra Connect is the bridge. It synchronizes your on-prem identity into Entra ID. So your user have one identity that works both in the both world. Connect Sync handles complex environment. Cloud Sync is the lighter weight agent based option, and Connect Health Monitor the whole pipeline. Now, like I said here, the bottom line is the fact that if you have an Entra ID or you have an Entra, then you have some legacy identities, Microsoft Identity Server in the cloud. I mean, on-prem. How do you make sure that the two can communicate? How do you make sure that users within that on-prem environment can also communicate and consume cloud infrastructure, services or resources, and they don't need to duplicate, we don't need to duplicate and do all sort of manual work or some even automated work. But the bottom line is that there is a tooling called Microsoft Entra Connect that allows you to do that helps you to achieve that helps you to connect to on-prem, and yes, and you can trust that you will have a. So like I said, the Entra Connect, it's your bridge to the legacy world. So if you look at it here, you have a Cloud Sync, and you have the other one called Connect Sync. So either of the two allows you to do connection to the other world, like legacy world. So it's very important that you are aware that such is available, and you can take advantage of that. So again, it synchronizes your on-prem identity into Entra ID, so user can have one identity that works in both world. So we go to Global Secure Access. So if we go to here, Global Secure Access is another group head, and under that we have Internet Access and Private Access. Now let me say this. This is the VPN replacement built for Zero Trust. So Global Secure Access is the VPN, is the VPN, built to replace. Let me see. Yes, to replace VPN. This is a tool, built to replace VPN, and is built on Zero Trust architecture. Global Secure Access has two sides. Internet Access is a secure web gateway. All your users' internet traffic goes through Microsoft Edge, inspected against threat intelligence, filtered by other policies. Private Access, on the other hand, is your Zero Trust network access layer. Instead of putting user on a VPN that gives them the whole network, you determine exactly which internal application they can reach. And conditional access policy apply on every connection. Identity aware, device aware, application specific access. That is the difference. That is different. So bottom line is that this service or this group head, what it does is to replace VPN, but now replace VPN with a kind of VPN like Microsoft native tooling that is Zero Trust. They have two sides to it. One takes care of traffic that route through the internet, and one takes care of traffic that route through within the Microsoft internal network. And that is to show that this is a tool you can use based on your use cases. You can exploit, and you will see you can get more information on how you can implement that. Like I said, this is not a hands-on or maybe deep dive session. Later that will come, but what I'm doing here is to explore the functionality, the service, the toolings, everything, the interface, and begin to tell us what exactly it can be used for, and how we can take advantage of that in our daily work or within our ecosystem. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is external identity. So after the ID governance, then you can see here that you call a verified ID. So under the verified ID is what we call external identity. So Entra doesn't stop at employees. External identity lets your partners and contractors authenticate through their own identity provider. No credentials for you to manage. Verified ID gives individual cryptographically, provable digital identity or credential they own and control. Employment verification, professional certifications, and Entra ID agent. This is the one to watch. It is the identity framework for AI agent, because your co-pilot agent and your agentic pipelines are making API calls, accessing data, and taking action on your behalf. They need identity, they need governance, and they need audit trails, just like any other person. So if you look here, if you look at verified identity here, look at overview, and you can look at credentials. Okay, we don't have that access there. But under verified identity, these are the things that you can benefit if you have the license. And it's very important that we know that all these exist. But what does that mean? It means that it allows you to verify, to validate, and to manage, quote unquote, the word manage there, external identity, maybe from contractor, maybe from some of your partners, and even now agents. That's you can have an agent, within your organization. You can have agents within your organization that you manage it separately, but you know that okay, everything being done by those agents can be tracked, how they have identity, they can be audited, they can be held accountable, even though eventually it will be the human being that will be held accountable. So these are the things that they are very important when it comes to Entra, Microsoft Entra admin. And if you look at the Entra admin, like I said in a wrap up, in conclusion, is that within the Entra admin, we have Entra ID, we have ID governance, we have verified ID, and we have a global secure asset. So these are the four major services, but you can see some other, let me say, miscellaneous down there that you can use. But my job today is to make sure that I bring to you the very most important feature in a very as short as possible video. So now, in my closing, one platform, 13 capabilities, all of them anchored on the same idea that in a modern enterprise, identity is the perimeter. If you get identity right, you will solve the hardest problem in security. So this is the end of this video, and the next time I come, then I will bring another Microsoft security tool. Thank you. Bye.